INFJ versus INTJ. When trust breaks, it's never just a disagreement. Picture this: two brilliant minds. Still, silent, impossible to read. But beneath that calm, a fracture is forming. Trust doesn't just disappear. It collapses like a hidden structure breaking under pressure. And when it does, each type reacts in a way that's quietly devastating. One retreats inward, haunted by emotion. The other turns outward, cold, precise, and final. But what really causes that split? What happens beneath the silence? By the end of this video, you'll understand how INFJs and INTJs experience broken trust and why it changes everything. Let's start with the INFJ, sensitive, insightful, a mirror for your emotions, sometimes before you even feel them. Their mind is an emotional radar, constantly tuned in, reading tones, picking up what's unsaid. But when trust breaks, everything goes quiet. No drama, no confrontation, just silence. And in that silence, their mind turns inward, not to strike back, but to understand. How did I miss this? Why did I believe? Now, the INTJ, strategic, detached, focused on the long game. Trust? It's a rare investment, made carefully and only with reason. So when betrayal comes, it's fast, clean, surgical. A mental audit begins. This variable failed. Reroute, eliminate risk. You won't get an explanation, no warning, just a quiet door. Closing. They don't yell, they don't chase, they move on. Two people, two breakages, two silences, but underneath, two very different storms. So, what's really going on inside? The INFJ's mind is structured around introverted intuition, or NI, a function that doesn't collect facts but distills meaning. It operates in silence, beneath the surface of language. What others experience as fragments, a glance, a pause, a contradiction, NI compresses into a single coherent insight. It doesn't rush, but when it arrives at a conclusion, it's complete, final, and often impossible to explain. NI doesn't ask, "What's happening now?" It asks, "What's really behind this, and where is it going?" Just beneath that is extroverted feeling, or FE. Contrary to how it's often portrayed, FE isn't about pleasing people or expressing warmth. For the INFJ, FE is a system of alignment between people, values, and unspoken emotional expectations. They notice emotional shifts quickly, but not just to empathize. FE evaluates. Is this emotionally congruent? Does this interaction make sense within the relational context? When trust breaks, FE doesn't explode. It retreats, because emotional misalignment feels not just uncomfortable, but unsafe. Their third function, introverted thinking, TI, offers internal clarity. Not loud, not reactive, just precise. TI steps in when something doesn't add up. It begins dissecting beliefs, ideas, and interactions like a quiet analyst in the background. Not to prove anyone wrong, but to make sure the internal framework still holds. It asks, is this logically consistent with what I know, or have I overlooked something? At the bottom of the stack is extroverted sensing, or SE, often misunderstood, even by INFJs themselves. SE doesn't show up often, but when it does, it pulls them into sharp contact with the present moment. Sometimes it brings grounding, a heightened sense of presence. Other times it floods the system with input. Noise, pressure, intensity. It's not always manageable, but it's real. And when SE breaks through, it can bring the INFJ out of their internal world, whether they're ready or not. At the core of the INTJ psyche is introverted intuition, or NI. It doesn't chase information. It waits for convergence. NI doesn't think in steps or sequences. It sees systems, timelines, inevitabilities. This function doesn't ask, what's true right now? It asks, what will be true eventually? And how do we get there? For the INTJ, reality is a moving structure, and NI is the architect that quietly maps it all out before a single word is spoken. Supporting that is extroverted thinking, or TE. Unlike NI, TE is active. External. It brings the plan into motion. When something fails, TE doesn't take it personally. It adjusts the system, makes the decision, moves on. It prioritizes what works over what feels good. But TE isn't about control for its own sake. It's about alignment between idea and outcome, vision and execution. Beneath that lies introverted feeling, or FI. You won't always see it, and they won't always talk about it. But FI holds the INTJ's personal code, quiet, unwavering, and often intensely private. It governs what feels right, even when T says it's efficient. FI doesn't shout, but when violated, it doesn't forget. It's where the loyalty lives, and where the internal conflict begins when logic and values drift apart. At the base of the stack is extroverted sensing, or SE. Most of the time, SE remains in the background, filtered, managed, kept in check. But when it activates, it hits fast. Heightened awareness, sudden action. Sometimes that means precision. Other times, impulse. SE can pull the INTJ out of long-term vision and into immediate reaction, which is where things may become unstable. It brings urgency into a system that was never built for speed. Cognitive functions shape perception, but they don't exist in isolation. They form a lens through which trust is built and through which betrayal is processed. For the INFJ, the fracture hits the emotional code. It's not just about what happened, it's about what it meant. Why did it happen? What did I miss? What wasn't said? For the INTJ, the break cuts through the internal system. They trusted the structure, the logic, the plan. Now, the system is flawed. That means it must be rebuilt. Two minds, two internal architectures. Same event, entirely different rupture. So what happens when that trust, that fragile structure, collapses? INFJs aren't undone by rage or cruelty. What truly wounds them is emotional indifference. The moment they realize, you never really felt me, you never truly saw me, that's when they shut down, completely and quietly. INTJs, they fear one thing above all, a flawed system. They believed in the structure, they trusted the logic, they calculated the outcome. When that fails, they don't cry, they reprogram. Let's put them in the exact same situation. A close friend shares a deep secret, then later uses it against them. INFJ, first, silence, then reflection. Maybe it was a mistake? But then, NI kicks in. Patterns surface, everything clicks, and the trust? Gone. They walk away, not angry, just done. INTJ. One glance, then nothing. Inside, this person is no longer part of the plan. No debate, no emotional spiral, no return. INFJ grieves the connection. INTJ removes the variable. But what happens when stress pulls them into the shadow? When deeply stressed, the INFJ may seem to shift from quiet understanding to sharp detachment. But this isn't clarity. It's extroverted thinking as the trickster, a function that mimics logic without grounding it in inner truth. They might suddenly assert facts, make rigid decisions, or use cold reasoning to shut others out. But it's not stability, it's defense. A mask to protect the emotional core that just got pierced. This isn't the INFJ operating at their best. It's the mind scrambling for structure. When harmony collapses, afterwards, there's confusion, regret, a quiet sense that they acted out of character because they did. The INTJ isn't used to asking for emotional support. But when the system fails, when the plan breaks down, they may reach out awkwardly. That's extroverted feeling as the trickster. It appears not as connection, but distortion. Suddenly, they express too much, seek reassurance they don't understand, or respond emotionally in a way that feels unfamiliar, even wrong. It's not true vulnerability, it's disoriented exposure. And once the moment passes, they recoil from others and from themselves. Because trickster FE doesn't build bridges. It scrambles the signal and leaves them wondering what just happened. When trust breaks, something deeper than words is tested. Not just loyalty, not just emotion, but cognition. The INFJ, shaped by intuition and emotional integration, looks for meaning in the fracture. They withdraw not to punish, but to protect what's left of the connection inside them. And when they lash out, it's not strategy. It's confusion wearing logic's mask. The INTJ, driven by vision and structure, recalibrates the system when it fails. But even the most resilient mind has blind spots. And sometimes their silence hides something more fragile than they'd ever admit. Both types feel, both rebuild. But not in the same way, not with the same tools. So when it happens to you, when trust is gone and you're left in the silence, do you retreat or do you rebuild? Let me know in the comments. And if you're ready to explore the deeper architecture of the mind, subscribe and stay tuned for what comes next. Thanks for watching. See you on the next video.